Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to have you here joining us on our first Fired Up Friday of the year. And what a doozy it is. As Tiff and I say, whenever we do these, it's only bi weekly. We took a little holiday break, but every time we come back, there's always a hot mess to discuss. And not sure about you, Tiff, but I have been really trying to protect my peace, staying informed, but not just getting overwhelmed because it's a lot going on. But I do want to dig into a little bit of what is going on with the top news that I think is, filling the airwaves, and that is certainly the Venezuela invasion and the ICE shooting in Minnesota. And we'll talk about those to start us off. And then, I have a few other topics that I'd like to touch on if time permits. So,
Oh, nice.
give me your thoughts on Venezuela.
Well, I think we all started the year wondering what this year would look like, and I think we found out pretty fast on Saturday, right? I think I was at my mom's house. I had went to a party on Friday night, woke up at 5 a.m. and looked at my phone, which was a big mistake. Should have never done that. And when I when I looked at my phone, I went on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, he really did it. He invaded Venezuela. And then I went to Twitter, and then it was like it was just snowballing and everybody's like, what the hell is happening? But I think when you kind of take it all in and realize all the things that happen, it does feel like a lot of this was like a production in a way, because this is Trump and we're in the Trump reality show. And in the Trump reality show, everything is planned and everything is coordinated for show. And
Exactly.
and so when I stepped back and I looked at it, I'm like, okay, they got into the country, no issues. This is definitely someone had to help them to be able to do this. These people have an army, they have defense systems, everything. No one knew. We also have 8 battleships surrounding them, and I mean, where in the Caribbean, this was all a show. And then Trump comes out and he's like, yeah, we're gonna run it. And everybody's looking like we are. Like he's like he can't even keep his own story straight. It's like insane. And now
Well,
and the
they're
thing
not
is,
even coordinating.
yeah, once he says it, you kind of have to go with it, right? So now these people are like, what are we gonna do now? It's insane.
Right. And Rubio, like they couldn't get their story straight because he's like, yeah, we're not going to be there. And Trump's like, yeah, we're going to be in there. And I'm sure that the opposition leader that won the Nobel Peace Prize was quite shocked and surprised by it all too. Like she dedicated that to Trump, and then he was like, "Yeah, we're not turning it over to you." So there's a lot of things going on. And, still like just today, they have seized another oil tanker. I think it had a Russian flag on it. And they have been negotiating with the current regime in place there, which is basically Maduro's, vice president and all the other folks. So what has really changed? But they negotiated all of these prisoner releases, and supposedly to help calm calm things down with us. But I don't know, like who the prisoners are, what countries they're from, and what have you. So that's still a developing story, but I'm glad that Congress did pass a I guess they got a bill that has passed in the House to stop him from any further action in Venezuela. So we will see how that goes and if he listens, because he pretty much does what he wants regardless of the rules and the law.
Yeah, he makes his own rules, and we are living, like I said, in Trump reality show, and whatever he says is goes, and he has nothing but minions, who I call demons, who are helping him to fulfill whatever it is that comes to his mind. And the thing is that people are saying, oh, the reason why he was upset with Maduro is not because he's Maduro and he's doing bad things to people in Venezuela. No, he's mad because he was pissed that he was dancing in videos and he felt like he was being mocked. I mean, this is where we are. This is that. So he saw him dancing and he felt like he was mocking him, and now he's like, let's go grab him. And I'm sorry, but Maduro didn't look too sad that he was captured. He was like, okay, well, you got me now. Now what? Like, I'll just. He already knows that. Apparently there was already talks in place before this about, maybe him surrendering, him going to Turkey. Like, there's been all this stuff. So like I said, I feel like a lot of this was planned. I feel like we are just kind of watching it play out. But to your point, there is no real regime change. There is no change. It was just a change of a lead. They had leadership change, and that was it. It would be like Trump leaving and JD Vance coming right in with his crazy bunch of people that they're all demonic. So it's the same thing. There's nothing really changing except for the person who's leading, who seems to be a person who is more willing to work with the United States, which is Delcy Rodriguez. I think that's her last name. And she seems like, okay, she's going to work. She's going to work with the United States government. And when Trump says he's in charge, it's not that America or Americans are in charge. It's that they're going to do whatever the Americans tell them to do. And what we all know Trump wants to do is to get that oil. He has made that very clear. He is not. What thing with Trump is sometimes he's lying. Most of the time he's lying. Sometimes he actually tells the truth. And he did not hide what the goal was with Venezuela. He wants the oil, and then they're saying he wants to keep the money for himself. I mean, this is
putting it in an offshore account or whatever. Like, yeah,
they want to put it in crypto. Let's be real. They want to put it in crypto. They're going to make money off of it. And this is just the reality of where we are and who we're living under. And it's like you just never know from day to day what's going to happen. And I think that's really the part that people are, one, just scared of, because we don't know. He's like threatening all these different countries. He's threatening Mexico. He's threatening Greenland. I mean, whoever he feels is his enemy on any given day, he's going to threaten. But then you have someone like Pete Hegseth, who is out of control and is willing to do whatever. There's no guardrails. It feels like there's no guardrails. At least in 1.0, there was some guardrails because the generals were telling him, no, that's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. Who is telling Trump what is good or bad at this point? I don't know that there's anyone.
Well, there's not, and that was designed. Project 2025 put in place the plan to make sure that there weren't, because most of the people who helped to author those various chapters were from his first administration, and they understood the things that stopped them from doing what they wanted to do in the first administration. So they set about creating a plan that would not have obstacles that they could easily get around. And the biggest one, of course, is personnel, because they said personnel is policy. That is kind of like their opening mantra or motto in Project 2025. And what they meant by that, and what we can see, is that they intended to purge a large portion of civil servants, and certainly the kind of referees in our civil servant, in our government, and replace them with loyalists. That's why a lot of people are calling for Hegseth to, be fired or impeached or whatever, or saying that, he should get rid of him. And this is just me personally, from, all of the information that I've been taking and watching in over the years and understanding Project 2020. I don't think there is nothing that man can do or will do that will cause Trump to get rid of him, because he is exactly the kind of person he wants in place, because he will do whatever he tells them to do. And that's what they want there. Like, he doesn't care about his competence and, his years of, experience or any of those things. And so, he is also helping to purge the military so that they replace a lot of professional military leaders that understand what is lawful and unlawful, to get rid of those that may put up a fight. So not only is this being done within our government, it is being done in the military, and Pete Hegseth is carrying that out. And as you could say, across all of the agencies, much of what they're doing is performative, but it is also very, very dangerous, because what he did in Venezuela and the threats he's making to Greenland and all the other places. I mean, that brought all the EU leaders together, and Denmark and Canada and all the other people. Like, American people may not be taking him seriously,
Oh
but
yeah.
they are,
Well,
because they,
I mean, why wouldn't they take him seriously? He literally just invaded a country, and then these people are talking about, the Western Hemisphere. Now they think they own the Western Hemisphere. I mean, it's like you have to take what Trump says seriously, because he's so unhinged. You don't know day to day what he's going to do, whether you think he has dementia, whether you think he's just a person who is insane. Either way, you have to take his threats seriously, only because you just never know what he's going to do. And if he does nothing, great. But if he does do something, then how you need to be able to react to that really quickly and proactively prepare for what he intends to do. So I don't know how else people should react to him, because if I'm living in Greenland, I'm getting prepared for what could possibly happen. If I'm living in Mexico, I'm worried that this crazy man will wake up one morning and say, go grab Claudia Scheinbaum. Like, I mean, this is how we are operating in this. We've always laughed and called like the New World Order, but I feel like this is what's really happening. And there's some weird alignment that is happening. And what is Trump going to do if the Chinese say tomorrow, hey, it's Saturday, let's go invade Taiwan? What will he do then? He probably would say, I don't care.
well, of course not, because what is he doing with Ukraine, and Russia? He will probably say, well, they're powerful enough. They have the bigger army, or that's their right to do, which essentially is what he's saying to Putin. Like, he is making, which, when we ended the year, we had, quote unquote, peace negotiations in Mar-a-Lago. And when he carried out this invasion in Venezuela from Mar-a-Lago, very unsecure, kind of place. So the kind of danger that he's placing us in from a national security standpoint, not only with the actions that he's actually taking, but where he is taking them, where the communications and the activity, the hub of activity is taking place, also weakens our national security, but they don't care. So yeah, the New World Order thing is very real. I follow Julia Davis, who does a lot of reporting on Russia. She actually translates their TV for us. And really, like last year, after, well, now it seems it's hard to be in a new year now, but in 2024, she was watching and translating them, and them actually talking about this new world order that they envision. And remember, Xi went to Russia, and Putin went to China, so they basically have this vision where the world will be carved up, and they have claimed their sectors. And so, Trump is claiming this sector, but not everybody in the Western Hemisphere is going to roll over and lay down like his Republican Congress. So,
Right. And I just I don't know what to expect, because it's like no matter what Trump does, these folks, they just agree with whatever. Like they're like, oh, it's okay. There was these people. They're like, no, it wasn't. We didn't start a war. It was a law enforcement. Whatever they said it was. I'm like, what? like, this is not law enforcement. This is, you went into a sovereign country and you decided you were going to take their leader, and now you're saying that it's a law enforcement like exercise. Like, that makes no sense. But the Republicans are just repeating the same talking points. You got Lindsey Graham, who's a freaking warmonger and excited. He's like, yes, he's like, we can go take all these people out. Like, dude, you want to spend more money on wars? Like, that is not a place where, I don't even think people on the right nor the left, they're in a position to send their sons and daughters to war over oil. Again, we've been there, done this how many times? And we have seen the same exact thing and outcome over and over again. And we know that it would cost billions of dollars. Like, we're already in a deficit. I mean, I'm not a fiscal hawk here, but if you are a person who's complaining about the cost of our deficit and how much money we have in our government, and you're like, hey, let's go get in another war, we know how much wars cost, trillions and trillions of dollars. So this goes against even their own conservative minds when it comes to our economy.
Speaking of, as you said, I mean, America first, I thought was supposed to be America first. Not a smart strategy. Isolationism has never fared well for us, but he's not even honoring their own ideology. And as you said, regime change is something that America has been, messing around with for a while, but never in the history of us attempting this has it turned out well for us. It has always ended in these endless wars that we eventually just have to say enough already, because we're sacrificing our sons and daughters. Vietnam was probably one of the worst and first, and then of course then we repeated the same thing with Iraq. I mean, at some point it seems like folks would learn. you know
Yeah, well, if you're in a cult, you're definitely not learning much. I mean, I do
yeah.
think there are fractions of the cult that actually do not want war. They know the outcome of these type of imperialistic type of situations, and they do not ever work out. And I just felt like it was so like disingenuous to see people who are in the cult say, well, the people of Venezuela are so happy about this. Meanwhile, we didn't hardly see any videos from Venezuela because, again, they are under a dictatorship. So people are not going out in the streets saying we are so happy that Maduro is gone. What you actually saw was the opposite, because, again, there is an army. There are people in the streets. They're dictating how people react to things. And what we saw was a lot of people saying that they did not want Maduro to be gone. And also, they don't want the imperialists coming in there to take over their country, because they have seen, like all the rest of us, how this ends up. So for some of those people, they're like, you know what? I'd rather have the devil we know than you
Exactly.
devils coming in here to take over our land and God knows what, and extract our resources, which we may not be getting now, but why the hell do we want you to have it to enrich yourself off of? And this is a constant cycle. So I'm kind of like, we've moved off of that narrative, obviously, because we had a whole nother situation happen. But I feel like even today, because there's so much news going on, even now, you see that the executives, the oil executives, are meeting because they want a piece of the pie too. I mean, they're not gonna not do it. They want some to. It's just a lot. It's just so much happening.
It
And it's just so it mentally, like you said, we have to kind of step back because we cannot process all of this as fast as it's happening.
Right, and we have to also look at really kind of the root of where it's coming from, and the goal. Like, the chaos in them getting there can kind of take us away from that. But essentially, he is trying to create a situation where he is running things here forever. And, like even when he is gone, that the Republicans in his regime will too, because he is ignoring all of the checks and balances that were put in place by our Constitution. And it's just ironic that this year we're going to be celebrating 250 years. And the kind of gaslighting and things that are being done with our history and with actual events. And so I want to move, because I know we need to do a hard stop for you at the top of the hour, but I want to move a little bit to gaslighting in the with the Minnesota incident, like how quickly they moved to create a false narrative. And I mean, and this is coming from the White House, the top man, from the president to Nome and all of the executives at the head of these agencies, basically telling us not to believe what we are seeing with our own eyes. I mean, it's very Orwellian, but it's also very autocratic. Like, I have said for a long time that we were in an like
You sure have.
fascism is here. And now people are starting to see it play out. And he is going through the playbook. It's just, like the various events that are, taking us further down this road may differ somewhat. But from a historical perspective, these are the same things that all autocrats do. He started out with the fake news. That was to discredit media. And so now in this second iteration, he has actually taken over certain legacy media or threatened them so that they capitulate, or, had some of his cronies buy them out. We can look at Viktor Orban, who basically did the same thing in his country and created what he calls an illiberal democracy. And he has been a mentor for the Heritage Foundation and Trump for a while. And when I look at that country now and where they are, like 80% of their media is owned by the government. And that is what Trump is trying to create here. And while, some people may say, I don't care, who owns or whatever. Well, we should, because, a free press is in our Constitution for a reason. Because in order to be, we need to be informed. Like, it is a democratic republic, which requires our engagement and our involvement. But our engagement needs to be based on facts, on information. And I've also said for a while that, like, this isn't politics as normal. We're also fighting an information war. So it requires people to be very savvy and to be media literate, because not everyone does. And I know people don't like to talk about politics and some of these awful incidents, but there is like, right now, no one can afford not to be engaged.
Right. No,
Okay.
yeah, well, I made that post the other day saying like 1/3 of our country is in a cult. 1/3 of our country says they hate politics. They don't want anything to do with politics. Both sides are the same. The lesser of two evils. You got all these apathetic people talking about all this, how they don't want to be engaged in politics. But I think at the end of the day, how can you just continue to be disengaged when we are no longer heading into authoritarianism? We are in authoritarianism. What we've been warning about from 2000 and on, people that this could even before that, 2016, like we saw it in 1.0, we saw where this was headed. And then what we saw in 2020 was then the insurrection, which was the anniversary this week. So we saw that happen. And now it's escalated to a point where you have given this man the power back. And he has now decided that he is going to use the power within all of his powers as presidency, and use his Justice Department, and use his DHS, and use all these different units, especially the one that everyone is talking about this week, which is ICE. And I've seen a lot more people saying like abolish ICE. We need to get rid of ICE. We need to move away from this. These people are the Gestapo. And unfortunately, I have to agree with them. What we are seeing is not okay. This is not okay what we're seeing. There is no reason why a woman should be dead. If she panicked, clearly. If I was in my car and I was trying to pull out and I saw a bunch of guys jump out at me and who didn't identify, let's be clear, they did not identify themselves and say, we are ICE. They jumped out and said, get out the car. They were pulling on my door. And mind you, she was already trying to pull out. So she has her foot on the gas. She's not in park. So if somebody's coming, your instinct in that moment is to flee. That is just your instinct as a person, because you don't know who's coming after you. This cop gets in, well, he's not even a cop. This agent gets in front of her car, coming from the other side, parks his ass right there, and then decides that when she starts to go like move out, which was not good. I mean, in watching the video, yes, if a person is moving, but she was not trying to hurt him. He panicked because apparently he was in an incident in the summertime where he broke someone's window and was stuck in the window and the person started moving. So this is a pattern, because there's always a pattern here. And apparently that case ended up going to the court, and the person ended up getting prosecuted for the fact that he harmed the officer. In this case, it wasn't even about harm, because they could have just let the woman go and she could have been arrested, booked, whatever, tried, paid a fine, whatever it means. No, the fine was her life. And when he shot her, if you look at the video that was released today, he says, effing bitch. He knew exactly what he was doing. After he did it, he had one in his left hand. He was still recording on his phone, and he shot her with his right hand 3 times. The first time was through the window. The second time was through the front glass. The second time was through the window. One shot would have been just enough. So there's so much, but the fact that they're telling us, as soon as I saw the video where she's like the other agents pulled up and she was already waving them through, I'm like, okay, that video was to me the video that made the most sense of how this all played out. And when I saw that, I said, okay, I already see how this is going to go. And I already knew they were going to just talk like about this woman like she was worse than an animal and call her all kinds of names and try to destroy her character, because that is what authoritarians do. They will destroy anything and try to gaslight people to believe that this person was a bad person, when what we're hearing is that this woman was somebody who was against what they were doing in Minnesota in terms of the ICE agents and coming in and harming people. But she was also a mother of 3. She was also a devout Christian. Yes, she was married. She had just moved to this area. All of these things show that she was actually a person who was human and was trying to help her fellow person, which makes sense to me why she was a Christian. But then you have these fake Christians out here that are celebrating the fact that a woman was murdered, telling us to not even, like, they're literally telling us to not believe what we're seeing with our own eyes. And there is nothing worse than that.
Exactly. The gaslighting is so offensive. I have not watched many of the videos or listened to them. I kind of read reports, and I kind of take my time maybe and go back and look at them later. So I haven't seen the video you're referencing today. But yes, I agree, because like I said, maybe 5 years ago, the chance of defund ICE or abolish ICE may have seemed hyperbolic, but at this point, I don't think so, because they are a rogue militia, basically, and that, frightens me because it really gives the German Gestapo vibes. Basically they're going in, they're masked, as you said. She had a normal reaction, especially as a female. You have all of these men coming up to you, even if they weren't masked. But the fact that they're masked, is also very scary. We know that there have been reports of people also not copying ICE, like
Mhm.
rogue actors who are not even ICE employees, basically buying their gear and pretending to be ICE. You just don't know. So much is going on. But what is really just, again, part of the authoritarian playbook is to dehumanize people, to dehumanize your opponent or anyone who has any type of dissent against your message and your regime. And they knew that they were wrong. They came out so quickly. That's the other thing that I really don't understand, but I do because it's them. But everything that they're doing from a standpoint like the FBI and all these other agencies, when these horrible things happen, like the shooting with Charlie Kirk, they come out before they even have collected any evidence, claiming narratives and giving information that they then either have to walk back or just drill down on, even more ridiculously. And that's what I see happening here. But I am glad, I told you earlier, I did see, and the other thing that lets you know something is not right is the fact that they cut out the Minnesota ability to be part of the investigation. So
Or
I'm very glad that they have started their own. Like they're not going to lie down and just take this. And this is also, it's important to note, the same city, not too far from where George
Ford
Floyd's murder happened. Okay. And this was, again, an incident that brought people out into the streets all over the world with protests. It is also those protests that occurred after that, that this guy in the White House had so much angst for. He wanted them to be shot in the leg. Okay. So now they have been given, carte blanche, really, to kill them, not just in the leg, but to shoot them. When they brought the National Guard here to Memphis, Stephen Miller was here, basically, you're unleashed. Those were his words. You're unleashed. And why would you unleash, you know, military force on American streets and
Well,
citizens?
we know why they want so badly. I saw someone today. I want to say one of these right wing people, and they were like, "I thought by now that Minnesota would be, I mean, or Minneapolis would be burning." It's like this is what they want. They want the chaos. They want people to act up. And I was glad the governor Tim Walz who's having already like a hard week last week, and now this week it just feels like Minneapolis can't catch a break. But it just feels like they want the chaos. They want there to be some sort of rise up where people are doing bad things, and we know there's always bad actors that go to these places and try to start something so that they can eventually claim martial law. And it's like we all kind of know what they're planning and doing, so we have to be smarter than them in every
Absolutely.
single way. There's been plenty of protests in plenty of cities. New York, Baltimore had one. I've seen them in a bunch of different cities, and people have been doing and protesting peacefully as they should. But they are just one incident away of overreacting and trying to get and make some kind of reason to and call up the National Guard, and they have these National Guards and all different, they kind of form this group of National Guardsmen that they're going to send into cities, like test. They want the test case.
Response.
Yeah, they want the test case so bad to try to do this, but thankfully no one has done it, and no one is doing it, because what is the point? I mean, we already have a person dead. We don't need more people hurt or more people harmed. Make your voices heard by being out there. Most places, especially on the East Coast, it's cold, it's rainy. People are out there because they want to be out there. But I think this is a little bit different than George Floyd, because it was summertime and there was a lot more people who were willing to come out. We were stuck in the house because of COVID. And now people understand what this administration is really trying to accomplish. And so people are being wiser and smarter and not doing it. But I think
God for that, because
that's
exactly what they're trying to stoke a situation that can spark this, like, Kristallnacht in Germany, that they can use to gaslight us into having a reason to really unleash untold violence onto, the citizenry. And I am glad that Indivisible is the organization that has created these protests that we had last year, and they have pulled together one that they're going to be having this weekend. I think 2 days.
So I think I see that. That's why I got a text about it.
Yeah, so that's very good, because I think also what they're doing is, with them and this kind of large scale, they've had practice. They're also training people in how to not to be nonviolent, how to protest peacefully, and to have kind of the protection of one another out there, because they understand, Ezra Levin, they understand, what the stakes are. And I am just thankful that Minneapolis is not burning, and that, people do understand what's at stake here, because they're looking for an excuse. And while we do need to fight back, to protest, and to do, as many things as we can to throw sand in the gears of this autocratic, machine. But we do need to do it in a way so that we live to fight another day, and we don't lose more citizens, because they really don't need a reason at all, but they can manufacture one out of the slightest little incident, and we don't want to give them any incidents to,
Yeah, they will manufacture it and then tell us that we are not seeing what we're seeing, and that murder is okay. They're basically telling us that murder is okay. And I find that so absurd in so many ways.
Yeah, it's state-sanctioned murder, essentially.
Insane that they are. It's not in a normal administration. If something like this would have happened, and we've had instances in the Biden administration, even where there has been issues. I mean, think about like at the border when the Haitian migrants were down there, and we had the guy on the horse, and he's like whipping there. It wasn't like the administration was like, yeah, no, that didn't really happen. Like no one was doing that. People said there will be an investigation. We will look into it. We will figure out what happened, and and go from there. This is not what this administration is doing. They're telling you, no, that's not what happened, and this person is the bad person in this situation, and this is self-defense. It's freaking George Zimmerman, Kyle Rittenhouse, but sanctioned by our governments. These people work for the governments, and I understand that you want to protect the government, but you're not protecting the government by having rogue actors within the government who are deciding that they are judge, jury, and executioner at this point to take people's lives because they feared for their own, which we can see in the video that the person was not fearful of their life. They could have literally just moved to the goddamn side. So
Seems
watch.
like they were more mad and angry than they were fearful, especially
Exactly.
given that you said he, made the comments that he did while
He
he
was
was
mad. He
shooting
was,
her.
but the
Yeah,
thing is, just because you're mad doesn't mean that you get the ability to shoot someone in cold blood and not get prosecuted for it. So I hope that Minnesota does do what they need to do so that this person does go and sit trial. I
I
want a jury to be able to determine. I don't need the White House to tell me or the DHS to tell me if this person is innocent or guilty. I already know they're guilty in my mind, but that's not for me to do. That is for a court of law, a jury, and everyone else. That woman deserves for her life to matter enough that she gets her justice for the fact that she's dead and for her children.
Exactly. And the good thing about it is that, there is no statute of limitations on murder, and that's what he did. So
No.
I don't, I know that this, regime is not going to do anything to bring any consequences because they don't think that they did anything wrong. In fact, they're just, like helping them to carry out their mission as they see it. But they're not going to be there forever. I know they're setting things up that way, and he wants to,
Right.
but we, the people, got something to say about that. So, in these last few minutes, I'd like us to move a little bit to some, election talk, midterms, and, some of your thoughts. I know you kind of watch specific elections and things a little bit more closely than I do. I keep an a lookout kind of overall. And when some of them are close to me or in my state or things, I dig into them. And so I just wanted kind of an overview from you on, kind of some of the things that we need to be looking out for because we're in primary season in some places already.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it is January. The first primaries typically begin somewhere in February. Texas is March. I mean, we are very close. It's like when Jasmine ran, she said, I think she said we only had 85 days to run.
Mhm.
And we're already like a month and a half into that. So we are watching all of these primaries and seeing how people are running. I just got news this week that my congressperson is retiring, which is Steny Hoyer, and it's going to be a battle here. There's going to be a ton of people running for the seat. Everyone thinks that they can be the next congressperson, and I got news for you. That's not going to happen. There is going to be a primary, and there are going to be a ton of people who are going to run, and each person will be getting vetted appropriately. And there's yes, and there's going to be a lot happening. I mean, there's candidates that are calling and trying to, talk to me and trying to figure out what they're doing. And listen, I already said I'm not picking anyone, but I'm gonna vet the shit out of all of you. So you guys, that's not about being friends or not friends. I don't care who you are. I'm not gonna just allow anyone just because I know you to be the next congressperson. The person who's going to keep this seat is likely going to be in this seat. I mean, Steny Hoyer was in the seat for 44 years. If you're electing someone that is a young person, they're likely going to hold this seat for at least 10 to 15 years. And that is like a minimum, right? I mean, the person who's going to keep this seat is going to be around for a long time. We're also trying to do like redistricting here. Like there's a lot happening in terms of Maryland that we're trying to work through. We have our governor's race that is kicking off. He doesn't even have he has an opponent. He has opponents, but there are none that are really
None that can come close.
that can really come close. So that's a good thing, unless Larry Hogan decides he wants to run, and we will see what happens. So I don't know. There's a lot happening, but even so, if you think about it, every seat is up in the House. I mean, every seat is up for re-election, and everyone's going to have to. Some seats are easier to win than others. Some are battles. Some people are in red seats technically and have won. So, like some of those California seats. Some people are now better off than they were because of California redistricting. Texas, they're losing people. There's so much happening that with all of these things, with the distraction of Venezuela and the distraction of this which sadly this woman was murdered. This dominates kind of the news cycle,
Mm-hmm.
rather than us talking about what matters, which is the fact that people cannot afford to have health care in this country because Republicans don't want to do the work to be able to help them, and they're cheap and don't want to pay for it. Meanwhile, they're okay with us spending money to go invade another country. So this is the hypocrisy of it all. And thankfully, Lauren Underwood got her bill passed with the help of Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, to be able to get 17 Republicans to go to sign on and vote yes for her bill to allow for 3-year extension of the subsidies. What's going to happen in the Senate? Who the hell knows? We're probably dead on arrival. That's the way it sounds. But there is work that can be done. So when people are like, well, Democrats aren't doing this or Democrats aren't doing that, there's Democrats that are doing work, but you're not hearing about it because guess what? There's a million other things going on. And that's what people are talking about. People today, somebody's like, Hakeem Jeffries is blocking like an impeachment of Christie. No, Hakeem Jeffries is not blocking. Robin Kelly actually just put on the floor in the impeachment of Christy Nome. We don't have the vote. So this civically illiterate nonsense that people keep talking, there are people that do not understand math. Apparently, math and politics go together because you got to
have the numbers
to be able. We have 213 people right now in the Congress because we had some people leave. They have issues on their own because they had someone die earlier in the week. So they only have 218 now. I mean, the numbers are insane, and we don't have enough people. So unless Republicans are willing and able to recognize what is really happening and say, you know what, we got to get Christy Nome out of here. That lady's not getting impeached. And we all know that even if you are impeached, we have learned this 2 times. Even if you are impeached, it got to go to the Senate, and you need 67 votes to be able to get that person out of office. So guess what? We are stuck with this regime until we at least get the ability to get back the House and can start having investigations. I mean, we've been through this before, guys. We've been through this in 1.0. It's like a repeat. I feel like it's like a repeat of what happened in 2018. But in order to do that, we need people to go and vote in the midterms. My daughter asked me today, she was like, when is midterms? This is where we are, because the kids are frustrated. I mean, she's not into politics like that. She knows.
I know. That's why I was clapping, because
when it's time to vote, she's like, okay, tell me what day I got to show up, and I'll show up, and tell me who to vote for. Like, this is the way that, young people operate when they talk to their family members. But today she was texting, and she's like, when is the midterms? Like, this is how I know that these stories are like, the bad stuff is starting to penetrate into what people are actually talking about, because for far too long we've wasted so much time talking about things that are not specific to this country. But when you start seeing shit go down bad, and people start dying like George Floyd, and now this woman, Renee Good, you are going to start to see people say, what the entire F is happening around here? Especially when it talks of war.
Yes, exactly. When you talk about, when you have actually invaded another sovereign country, and you're talking about invading more countries while you are, starving your American citizens, keeping them from getting benefits that could allow them to be fed and to have health care. The populace is going to rise up, as they should. So whatever it takes. I'm sorry so many people had to get to the FAFO stage, but it's getting real now because people are feeling it. They're feeling the result of their bad policies and agenda. And we are the last resource. Like, we can talk about, as you said, a lot of people don't understand, why aren't the Democrats doing something? Why aren't they, some of them are doing what they can, and maybe some of them could do more. But this is where the midterms come up. And as you said, keyword, vet, vet, vet. Like, just because someone is running as a Democrat or whatever doesn't mean you necessarily should be voting for them, because there are some, in my opinion, who are not ready to meet this moment. And we really do need fighters, because this is not politics as usual. This is an autocratic takeover, and that is how we have to approach it. You cannot mince words, really, or be fearful, and we have to demand accountability and justice, and be willing to pull the levers of power and authority that are within our ability to do, to bring those things about. And the other thing that I like to remind people, it's very easy for people to say, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't the Dems doing this? Why aren't the, what are you doing? You,
Exactly.
the American citizen, because we all have a role to play in this. Like, nobody can sit back and watch this like it's happening in another country or it's happening to someone else. It's happening to you, whether you feel it or not. If you don't already, you will. And I am asking all Americans to really, like, we all have skin in the game, whether you realize it or not. And we all have to be actively, civically engaged at this moment, because what he is doing by, taking away health care, driving up costs to make it, affordability even more difficult for people. He's trying to keep the population poor and sick so that they won't have the strength to dissent. And then you got your military militia out there to tamp things down. Folks, we're not in a good place, but we are not helpless and we are not powerless. And we need to use our power now. And something that is very easy for us to do, but it is an act of resistance, and that is being well informed. Like, I don't want to hear this, I don't like politics. You ain't got to like it.
Right.
You don't have to be into it, but it's into you. It is affecting you. So
Right.
know enough to know the things that are affecting you, and you can start real easy locally, because we're all having elections going on around us. So
Yeah.
know who's running, for things in your hometown, in your home state. Those are just not the federal, representatives, the US representatives, but the representatives in your state, even down to your local mayors, your city council member, your commissions. All of these people have an effect in your life, on your life, in the quality of it. So that is my call to action to people, is to get more civically engaged. If you are already, just keep doing it. Find those areas that matter to you. Like, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be involved in everything, but find something that you care about, that you're passionate about, and let that be your area of focus. We don't need to all do everything. We can't, but we all need to do something at this time.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
must.
And that's something may not even be, like, listen, there are people that are going out to protest. They're doing something, right? They're doing something that they feel passionate about. But just talking about stuff on social media is actually doing something. Talking to your family is doing something. Learning about who is, like you said, running in your local area. I actually it was so funny, over the weekend on Sunday, I get I have a ring. So my ring bell rings, and I'm in the bathroom, like, trying to get myself together because I'm about to go food shopping. And then I looked at the ring, and I saw that I saw the girl had, like, I can always tell a canvasser,
Like clipboard.
return their hand. So I'm like, okay, let me go open the door to see who this is, because I didn't know who was canvassing. I mean, we have, like, a lot of local races there. All of our delegates are up for re-election. We have county executive. We have, now we're gonna have Congress, governor. I mean, there's so many different things happening. So I said, let me go see who this is, because usually I'm just nosy. So then when I go to the door, it's my delegate. They were canvassing for my delegate, and he was like, hey, I'm here for Andrew Pruski, da da da. I'm like, oh, Andrew's my friend. So the girl's like, oh, Andrew is here. So Andrew, like, comes from down the block. He's like, hey. And so, I mean, it's just like, The thing is, I feel like people are so disengaged from the people that are elected to serve in their communities. But why wouldn't you want to know the people that are actually making decisions for you in your community? I did this myself. I made sure that I didn't know who my delegate was before 2022. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I mean, I know, of course, I knew who the governor was, the top
Right. Yeah.
offices, but the local people, you don't really know them. So I made it a point to get to know these people, to talk to them, to understand what it is that they're trying to do for my community and what I want myself from my community. So you don't have to, be all into politics. I just need you to be engaged. I need you to understand who represents you. If you don't feel like being on social media or you don't feel like protesting, there will be events in your city. Every candidate usually has town halls. They usually have forums. Join those forums. They have them online.
That's
And
what I
you
was
can
going to
hear
say. Many of them are
any
virtual.
virtual thing. That's one good thing that came out of COVID. People are doing things virtually, so you can hear what these people are saying. This is how I got engaged in politics. I started watching when we had our governor's race in 2022. I was watching all those forums and started talking about it on Twitter, and breaking down what I thought of each of the candidates. And then next thing you know, I was like more and more engaged in what's going on, going to events, being invited to events.
It builds. It's
And it
something that
builds, and
builds.
you start to become engaged. You start meeting people, and next thing you know, you're like a DNC delegate, and you're like, hey guys, I mean, there's a lot that happened over the last couple of years, but this is how you become engaged. You're not going to become engaged by just sitting at home and complaining, and that's what a lot of people want to do, is complain. But you got to get engaged, and you have to be a part of your own community. Why do you want to be disengaged from your community? If you have a complaint, take it to the people that actually can make the change, not the people that not sitting at home complaining to yourself is not going to change, or on Twitter is not going to change anything.
Or just talking to your neighbors complaining or whatever. Like,
Exactly. But I was actually surprised because I was thinking, when I got out there, I saw Andrew, and he was talking to one of my neighbors, and he's like, Tiffany, there's a lot of people that have been coming out their houses talking today. I said, yeah, because people are pissed off. People are pissed, and they need someone to vent with. And who better to vent to than your actual delegate that's about to go back to Annapolis in a couple of weeks, who's going to make decisions on fees, on the taxes that you have to pay, on just things that need to be, the roads, the bridges. All these things are coming from your local government and your state government. They're not coming from Trump. Trump controls the federal government. Yes, we need money from the federal government to do what we need to do. But the things that are happening locally are mostly completed and done and passed by your local government. So get to know those people, because they are the ones that make the decisions for
right.
you on your behalf, because people are voting for them. If you don't vote for them, someone else will.
Exactly. The traffic that's bothering you, the congestion, because we have a lot of that here because the transportation, our roadways haven't kept up with the, incoming migration that has occurred here. So we have problems with that. We have problems with the potholes. Trump don't care about that, and he can't
Exactly.
fix that. That is done at a local level. So you need to know, your city council members and who's on the planning commission and what they're
Oh,
doing,
yeah.
and all of those things. And like you, in 2000, I started working for our local city mayor. And like I said, I got that job. I didn't apply for it. I got it because I went to his headquarters because he was running. I heard his little stump speech. I kind of liked it, but it was like, I want to see how serious you are. And I want to see how you are going to carry out some of these promises. And I had a heart to heart talk with him. He liked it. And he said, if I win, I would love for you to be my mayoral assistant. I said, sure. And I just thought he was blowing smoke, but he won. And he called me and asked me to do the job. And I said, yes. And it was really one of the most meaningful jobs, that I have had the opportunity to serve in my life, that and the military, because it is a type of public service. And you understand, again, how all of these positions in your local government affects the quality of your lives. And what people, I think, don't really realize is how really those mayors, those city councilmen, they want to hear from you. Like
Right.
they are getting all this information and they're making decisions, but they feel good when they are hearing from their constituents that they represent, to know that their constituents approve of or disapprove of what they're doing. It's how they keep an ear to the ground, so to speak, to know how they're doing. So you get to tell them and you get to help guide them into making those decisions. So like I said, if you're mad about something, maybe that's the area that you need to focus on and see the people, the organizations and committees that are responsible for that. So,
I
um,
agree. I agree, Miss D.
all right. Well, I know that we have to let you go here. I am so glad that we're back on schedule with Fired Up Friday. And just before we go, I want to give you an opportunity to tell folks where they can find you. So,
All
um,
right. Well, you can always find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. That's Tiffy330. And my name is Candidly Tiff on there. And then you can also find me. I have kind of consolidated some of the stuff because I can't be on every social media. So I'm mostly now on just Twitter, of course. That's the one I'm predominantly on. Threads and IG, I'm on there as well, trying to spread information because there's a lot of people that are focused on politics, but maybe don't necessarily use IG for that. So sometimes you can catch them in the algorithm. And then YouTube, I always put these videos on YouTube just so people can watch them afterwards and see them. So, and of course, Substack. I haven't wrote a Substack in forever. I need to get back to doing that. I did definitely take a break because of the end of the year, but now, like you said, we're back. And it's definitely 2026 and midterms is right around the corner. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. But yes, definitely catch me. I'm always talking crap. Someone said that they were a professional gossiper yesterday. And I love that. I'm like, I'm a professional shit talker about politics. That's what okay.
I love it, and your moniker is very appropriate. So yeah, folks, follow her, and she also is very informed on civics and how they work, and does excellent videos on the platforms that she's
TikTok
on.
too. I got TikTok.
Yes, exactly. So she's on a lot of places that I'm not. And again, this is just an example where we don't have to be everywhere. Pick and choose those places that work for you. And of course, you can find me under Advocacy Arena at Deja on Blue Sky, on Spoutable, and the Hellscape. Better, formerly known as Twitter, but, look for me at Advocacy Arena. I'm on, we've done a podcast series, which Tiff was featured on, Connections and Conversations, on all the places where you can get your podcasts. Certainly have a channel on YouTube and here and on Substack. So please subscribe to our Substacks. And I have really embraced the writing, and I've been writing a lot. I just posted another article in a series that I have been doing called Unraveling Democracy. So please check it out. And I was so excited at the end of the year. We had a phenomenal guest that joined us, Ann Nelson, to help us dig into the dark money and, the infrastructure behind this, regime now that's funding it. So there's a lot of good content there. Please follow us and subscribe so that you can continue to have access to good information, because independent media sources is where we're going to find it now. And so I try to amplify those voices like Tiff, and we come on here every couple of weeks and have this conversation about various different things. And we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks, when we know there's probably going to be a lot more ish.
Amen. Unfortunately.
All right.
Well, have a good weekend, Dee.
All right. You too. Bye. Thanks for joining, guys.